I wrote a column that is published in the Daily Cause this morning. It may appear in the News Leader later this week, but I want to share the content of it with you now under the title of Who Did It This Time? Maybe a little bit it was all of us. It's 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, June 12th. The excited voices of TV news reporters repeat what they do not know over a seemingly endless loop of images of gunshot victims being helped out of a nightclub in Orlando. Were people killed? More than 40 wounded? Why? Who? The first police briefing estimates that there were about 20 dead still inside the nightclub, increased to 50 by the time this service starts. The shooter, who had been armed with an assault rifle, a handgun, maybe even a bomb, is dead. Who was he? Why did he do this? Was he an Islamic terrorist outraged by the immorality of those who drink and dance into the wee hours of the morning? Was he a Christian terrorist striking out against a largely gay community gathered in ribald celebration? Or maybe he was a former employee, angry about having been fired, or a local resident tired of the noise and the traffic from the popular nightclub. Perhaps it was just someone who had a breakdown following a divorce, a bankruptcy, or some personal humiliation. I have visited nightclubs in Orlando. My jet-setting daughter posts pictures of herself and her friends in nice nightclubs on Facebook nearly every weekend. Were any of my Florida friends there? Law enforcement will eventually tell us who the shooter was. We'll be given a peek into his family life, his religion, and speculations as to his motivations. They will tell us what they find on the shooter's computer and what countries he may have visited. All of these details will be given to us so that we can all make sense of the event, so that we can calm down and go on with our lives with some reassurance, no matter how false that comfort may be. The point is, though, it was a club in Orlando, but it could have been a shopping mall in Seattle, a movie theater in Denver, a post office in Louisville, an elementary school in New Jersey, or church in South Carolina. The shooter could be Muslim, Christian, atheist. He could have been mentally ill or autistic or a drug addict or just a nice guy who lived next door who mostly kept to himself. The real issue is that lethal weapons are so available that virtually anyone can buy them and stockpile ammunition, much of which they can buy online from a catalog sporting goods store. What sport uses assault rifles? And aren't handguns just for shooting people? What will happen will be that an NRA spokesperson will recite things like, "Guns don't kill people," even though it is clear that a person with a gun can kill a lot more people than a person with a sword. They will say that the only thing that will stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, even though there was a well-trained, armed, and uniformed police officer inside the club who immediately returned fire. And yet, how many are dead? The gun lobby will tell us this is not the time to discuss gun laws, and they will attempt to shame those who do, decrying the nearly unchecked flow of military-style weapons into private hands, saying that we are exploiting a tragedy for political purposes. Eventually, the politicians who have accepted bribes from the gun lobby, and let's not call them political donations, because the net effect is clear. They are bribes that keep legislators from enacting sensible gun laws. Amen. But those politicians will find their way in front of news cameras to offer their thoughts and prayers, as if thoughts and prayers stopped bullets. And then they will defend the sanctity of the Second Amendment, as if the writers of the Constitution could have imagined such a tragedy. What I'd like to say at 7:30 a.m. on this Sunday morning is that no explanation for this most recent mass shooting should satisfy our morbid curiosity. Nothing should diminish the sickness we feel in our stomachs and the fear we feel for those whom we love. People who own guns kill more than 30,000 Americans every year, making them one of the greatest health risks and safety risks that we face in the 21st century. There are ways to make guns safer, and there are guns that private citizens simply shouldn't own, for the same reason that they can't own hand grenades or tactical nuclear missiles. Now is the time to demand sensible gun laws from our state and national legislative bodies before we are lulled back into the false confidence that this is not going to happen to us. By the time you read this, the media will have given you enough explanations of this event to try to take all of the shock and terror out of it. Let me say this clearly. Complacency kills. These tragedies will continue as long as the voting public remains anesthetized to rational thinking and compassionate sorrow.